Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Srimpada Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridyantasto Hyapadrani Vidinodi Shruvatsadam Nashta Prayeshu Apadreshu Nityam Bhagavada Seveya Bhagavadi Uttama Sloge Bhaktir Bhavadi Naishtake. Hare Krishna. Today I am reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 31, Verse 1. Translation and purport by Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Daiva Netrena Jendur Deho Upapadyaye Striyaha Pravishta Udaram Pumso Preda Kanashrayaha. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Karmana, by the result of work, Deva Netrena, under the supervision of the Lord, Jenduha, the living entity, Deha, a body, Upapatye, for obtaining, Striyaha, of a woman, Pravishta, enters, Udaram, the womb, Pumsaha, of a man, Retaha, of semen, Kana, a particle, Ashrayaha, dwelling in. Translation. The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of a male semen to assume a particular type of body. Purport. As stated in the last chapter, after suffering different kinds of hellish conditions, a man comes again to the human form of body. The same topic is continued in this chapter. In order to give a particular type of human form to a person who has already suffered hellish life, the soul is transferred to the semen of a man who is just suitable to become his father. During sexual intercourse, the soul is transferred through the semen of the father into the mother's womb in order to produce a particular type of body. This process is applicable to all embodied living entities, but it is especially mentioned for the man who was transferred to the Antha-Tamishra hell. After suffering there, when he who has had many types of hellish bodies, like those of dogs and hogs, is to come again to the human form, he is given the chance to take his birth in the same type of body from which he degraded himself to hell. Everything is done by the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material nature supplies the body, but it does so under the direction of the Super Soul. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that a living entity is wandering in this material world on a chariot made by material nature. The Supreme Lord, as Super Soul, is always present with the individual soul. He directs material nature to supply a particular type of body to the individual soul according to the result of his work, and the material nature supplies it. Here, one word, Redaha Kanashraya, is very significant because it indicates that it is not the semen of the man that creates life within the womb of a woman. Rather, the living entity, the soul, takes shelter in a particle of semen and is then pushed into the womb of a woman. Then the body develops. There is no possibility of creating a living entity without the presence of the soul simply by sexual intercourse. The materialistic theory that there is no soul and that a child is born simply by material combination of the sperm and ovum is not very feasible. It is unacceptable. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Pudale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitiramine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prajarine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I would like to seek blessings from all the assembled devotees. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to purify myself. Please forgive me for any shortcomings or any if I added any of my own interpretation. Hare Krishna. In chapter 30, last chapter, Lord Kabila talked about the fall of the materialistic jiva. And now chapter 31st continue to give the description of the future of the jiva. Previously, Lord Kabila speaks about materialistic persons spending their life attached to their family, body, etc. In order to maintain the family, they do all kinds of sinful activities. They continue to increase their attachment to their family. But what happens when they get older? The family begins to stop reciprocating because the person is old and no longer able to earn. The children will become disrespectful to the parents. Wife will neglect the husband. The life becomes more and more miserable. With the advancement of age, the body becomes attacked by all kinds of diseases. As the person suffers, and finally, at the time of death, the person leaves the body, surrounded by family members who are now, for the sake of social etiquette or due to prior attachment, feels regret of the imminent passing of the person. The man passes and will become attached to material conditioning. Lord Kabila says that such a man who has done all the sinful activities at the time of death faced by the two Yamadutas, and the Yamadutas give the person a Yadana Sharir. Yadana Sharir means rose body, which is able to withstand high level of punishment. The punishment depends on the sinful activities they have done. He was given various kinds of punishment. He goes to the hellish planet where agents of Yamaraj execute all kinds of punishment. Because of the Yadana Sharir, the person suffers tremendously. Such a person, after prolonged suffering, begins to transmigrate to the 8.4 million species through the law of nature. The karma is no longer working now. The person who is from one form of species to another, until after a very long time, he is ready to take birth in the human form of life. The jiva is now ready to take birth in the human form of life. Gurujan Prabhu says in his book that one should take care in his dealings with the material energy because the stakes are so high. It may take 1,000 of birth to expunge reactions from a moment of sensory happiness. For example, if one eats cow flesh, it will yield a severe karmic reaction. One will have to take one animal birth for each hair on the cow's body. A person who eats cow's flesh regularly and who lives to the age of 70 may have accumulated millions of years worth of karmic debt. Perhaps he will have to begin as a worm and now only have to live deep in the moist earth. Perhaps he will experience birth as a weed in which he will seek only sunlight, water, and the drive to reproduce the species. Perhaps he will take birth as a jackal, seeking only the taste of blood. This means that we will be receiving the punishment according to the sinful activities we did. Chapter 31st talks about the subsequent activities of the jiva. It begins with a description from Lord Kabila about the growth of the jiva within the womb and also the suffering of the jiva in the womb and the prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse 1 explains the continuation of the cycle. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, and according to the result of his work, the soul is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen and receive a particular type of body. The child lies helpless in the womb as his body develops. He is surrounded by foul stool and urine, bitten by worms, and experiencing agony. He falls unconscious because of the pain. When his mother eats food that are overly bitter, pungent, spicy, salt, or sour, they burn their sensitive skin, causing him incessant, intolerable pain. Prabhupada says in his translation that, according to materialistic theory, a child is born by sexual intercourse. But what actually happening is the soul takes shelter in a particle of semen and is transferred into the mother's womb in order to produce a human body. Everything is happening under the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The super soul is always present in the individual soul. The super soul directs the material nature to supply a body to the individual soul according to the result of the work. Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 verse 7 sloga underscores that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Mamaivam she jiva loge jiva buddha sanadana manaha shastra indriyani prakriti kashadi. Meaning, the embodied souls in this material world are my eternal fragmental parts, but bound by material nature. They are struggling with the six senses, including the mind. I think I have